almost said welcome back to the Tin Roof Podcast. That's the problem whenever you are basically running a network and you're tired and you're trying to get a bunch of stuff accomplished. Welcome back to the Calloused Hands Podcast. Man, I've been quiet for a little bit. It was not intentional by any means. It's just been incredibly busy. God is good. We've been able to get a lot done the past 3 months. Things get difficult in life, and so like as much as I love podcasting and want to be here, there's been other projects that have needed my attention, and so I've been working on those. But I've been able to maintain some steady consistency on social medias with posting cooking videos. That being said, I've got a lot that I want to work on, and like trying to do that plus everything else, just like regular life, is a lot. But that's not exactly why you are here. We're here to discuss God's Word, and I'm super excited about that. But some of that requires an update, like I guess, as to like, hey, where you been? But we're also not going to be continuing today. Let me asterisk that right now. We're not going to be continuing today with the whole looking at ancient Rome and what that would have looked like for our Christian brethren back then. We are actually going to be discussing something that happened to me recently. It was a discussion, and the discussion actually really put things into perspective for me, way more than what I thought it would. Because there's this thought that I really think we need to look into. So imagine, if you will, I want you to look at it both ways. We're going to start off with how you view somebody and then how somebody views you. So first of all, imagine like that one person that just gets under your skin, that just drives you nuts, like what's wrong with them, whatever. We are human. We all have those points. Now, obviously, maturity levels and everything else, which we're going to get into, dictate how you handle that. But that person that you're just like, they're just, for lack of a better term, they're just the worst. Like, they are just awful. Like, burr. Right? Okay, so are they, though? Because now spin it and look at you. Somebody that has those feelings towards you. We all have those feelings towards somebody. But this is where grace is such a big ordeal. However, I kind of want to leave that towards the end of what I'm talking about. So I want you to imagine for a minute. Okay, if everybody viewed you the same way that that one person views you, or the same way that you view the person that you have a problem with, how horrible would life be? It'd be miserable. And I arrived at this thought through the conversation that I was telling you about, and it opened my eyes like, wow. I do want to treat people better. I want to be more patient. I want to be more Christ-like. Obviously, like, he took the Pharisees and stuff to task, but not everybody's Pharisees. So that whole, if somebody out there would have that defense towards this idea, I don't think it holds water, so to speak. Because even if we had that excuse of, oh, well, the Pharisees, he called them a brood of vipers and everything else. It's not everybody. And I've really been able to do some really cool stuff the past 3 months while I've been away from recording this podcast, which I kind of want to. I guess this is about as good a spot as any, because it ties into what we're talking about, at least part of it. One really cool thing that I did was I was asked to teach 5th and 6th graders again, which I did, and I really enjoyed doing that. I love teaching the middle school ages. I even love teaching the youth whenever I get the opportunity to, but I was kind of given free reign of what I wanted to talk about, but the deacon over kid education at our congregation was like, how about you do it on respect? And I was like, a full quarter on respect. What does that look like? And so it's like, okay, well, what if we did it, Jesus, others, yourself, did it from the JOY acronym. And it's like, okay, so teach them reverence first. So started there. And then just trickled down to, okay, how do you take care of yourself and whatnot? And I really wanted to do, it always happens this way for whatever reason. Ever since I started this podcast, one of these years, I'm going to get it right for Men's Mental Health Month. Because, like, one of the biggest reasons why I started this podcast and one of my biggest influences was Under the Juniper Tree. Between that and When the Scriptures Become Real and a few other podcasts, like, it really motivated me to do my attempts to plant seeds through podcasting. Because, like, if I was going to be podcasting about other stuff, I figured I should do this too. And it's been great because it helps me, prepare lessons. It's helped my growth because I'm studying and all the different things. And so I was super excited whenever I got to this idea that we're talking about today, because I wanted to share this with you guys so much. And it is a respect thing. And I'll save the other thing for towards the end because it's so cool. And I thought it was so awesome. I don't know how I'm going to do that though, because I don't. I'll tell you about it, and then I have the original graphic. That's how we'll do that. Okay, so let's throw in a verse, because we've been talking for 8 minutes and we haven't had a verse yet. So let's have a verse. John 13:34. Everyone pretty much knows what it says. A lot of people have it memorized. I, for whatever reason, am not good at memorizing where something is in Scripture, and so I have to have it pulled up in front of me. But it says, "A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another, just as I have loved you. You are also to love one another." He says it twice there. Love one another. Okay, so do we take that seriously? Like, we say it, yeah, sure, love one another, right? But if we love one another, if we love the church the same way Christ loved the church, are we handling it appropriately when we're speaking ill of another member in the congregation? When we're saying, thinking, whatever, negative things about somebody that is in the congregation? I'm naturally, inherently, genetically, whatever, pessimistic. I am a negative person. Thankfully, my wife is not, because she'll, there's been times in my life, whether it's for myself or about somebody else or whatever, let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Okay, you're having a bad day, list 3 positives. And I know I've said these things on the podcast before, but that is so beneficial to have that positive outlook. And having worked on that side of myself for the past 16 years. Yeah, 16 years. Almost 17 years as a Christian. Is a big deal. God has allowed me the time to grow, to have a better understanding, to have more patience. But here's the thing, like within a family or whatever, there's always going to be somebody that you don't fully agree with, or you don't fully, like, you may not get along as good with them as you do somebody else. That doesn't make them a bad person. That doesn't make you a bad person. However, how you handle that situation does. Because you could sit there and you could be like, oh, he's just the worst. He does this, he does that. How could he say this, whatever. But is that true? Is it true? Because if they're that bad, are you going to share heaven with them? Are you, like, think about that. Okay, that person that is over there trying their best, that is teaching, studying, volunteering for different whatevers within the congregation, whatever, and they're just trying their best, and you're sitting over there, oh, no, that guy, no. Are you really going to share heaven with that guy? Is that really what that looks like? Are you really loving one another? Are you loving the church as Christ loved the church? The whole idea and the whole point of this podcast episode today is we can do better, we can love better, and we can respect each other. You don't even, I know I just like said all the different things about like trying to like somebody and everything else like that, but I think you can love, care, and whatnot from a distance, protecting yourself from somebody who may not be good for you, who may be a member of the church. We'll say they are, for the sake of these things. Who's a member of the church, who's trying to do exactly what you're doing. They're not at the same spot as you are. And that goes back to running the whole race thing, but I want to come back to that here in just a minute. Because I really think we do a detriment to ourselves. However, what was I getting at? This is a problem whenever you record while you're tired. But we put such a negative on people in general. And it's like, how can we do that and expect different results? But if they're not being divisive, if they're not being, I think the word I'm looking for here is salacious. If they don't have ill intent, if they're not focused on things of the flesh, are they really that bad? You just may not like the same things. You may have different views on something, but that doesn't make them bad. That doesn't make you bad. Would you, okay, this is one that I really wanted to talk about, but I hadn't said it yet. Would you even, okay, your marriage, think about it in a marriage situation, or a friendship for those of you who may not be married. Think about that situation, okay? For a marriage, it's like, that is your ride or die. That is somebody that is supposed to be there with you, for you, through thick and thin, your support group, your best friend, everything like that. My marriage hasn't always been the best, and I've, like, there's so many things I want to accomplish, like as far as like getting material out there for the church on top of everything else that I want to do. But my marriage was really rocky at the beginning, but we've had the opportunity to grow, to fully understand Christ's love. And again, not everybody's at the same point, but lessons like these help people get to a different point in their growth. Would you, and I am guilty of this, I want to go ahead and say that, but in a marriage, should you, if both people are working towards a better, we'll put it in just simply the marriage aspect, because that still paints the picture that Christ painted whenever, it talks about the church being his bride. Would you say negative things about your bride? Would you say negative things about your spouse? Sometimes we do. Sometimes we get angry and we say negative things. But if we're angry, if we're always angry, if we're always saying mean, nasty things, that's not good, right? Why would we do that? We need to take a step back and examine what's going on in our lives, what we're doing, what we're about, because we should love the church. Because if, we are the church, we are Christ's bride. So obviously we wouldn't say anything negative about Christ, because, he's Christ, first of all. But at the same time, he's he's the church's spouse. There we go. And to have that visual, because it's the visual of a relationship like that is supposed to paint it to where we have an understanding, because a marriage is the closest thing that we have to understanding how Christ cares for the church. The church is something that Christ cares very deeply about, as he should. And I just, man, knowing how I've viewed people, I'm going to put myself on the pedestal, in the firing, like in the crosshairs, instead of anything else. But knowing how I've viewed people, and then having that realization, and it is because of how I'm viewed by people. Not everybody, obviously, because that was the whole point. It's like, we all see people differently. We're a villain in somebody's story or whatever, but when it comes down to it, how can we, as Christians, view or have a really good relationship with Christ whenever we're sitting over there trying to split the church, or trying to not even necessarily split the church, but when people are saying negative things, that's what you're trying to do. You may not be trying to do it intentionally, but if you're over there, man, that Justin guy, he's all about cooking or whatever. I like to cook, yes. Actually, cooking has given me a really cool idea for something that I don't think's been done before. And I'm really excited about it. And I think I'm going to start working on something with it, because we all have to eat. But I think that we can, there's something there that we haven't, I don't know if it's that we haven't, but we aren't capitalizing on. Not just with cooking, but with our relationship as a whole. There's so much there for fellowship and everything like that, that is just not being touched on. And I'm I'm seeing it. And that's another thing. How are you fellowshipping with your brother whenever you're saying negative things? There are people that find me annoying, and vice versa, right? That's just common thought. Because personalities do clash. We have to have that understanding. Personalities do clash. It's fine to not get along with somebody as good as you do somebody else. Plain and simple. But that doesn't make them a bad person. Even if somebody's view on something scripturally could be, I don't want to say that they view it unscripturally, because the minute that they do that, that changes the whole scenario, because this whole idea is from within the church. So if you view somebody as a member of the congregation, not even just your congregation, but a member of Christ's church, a member of the body, and we're going to sit there and we're going to view them in a negative light. What are you going to view them as when you get to heaven? Because ultimately, you have to look at it as if, okay, they're here, they're doing the things, they are, from everything you can see, living the life. How can you sit there and look at that person negatively and be like, nah? Because if you're both in heaven, are you going to look across the street of gold and back? No. You're going to see them coming down the same side of the street as you are. Be like, no. Cross the street and whatever. That doesn't sound logical. And I use the heaven analogy the way I did just because of what we've been told about heaven. Obviously, it's going to be fellowship. It's going to be worshiping our God, like, continually, which is fantastic. And I think we need to think about that for a minute. That person that you're saying or thinking or whatever, anything negative about, that is a member of Christ's body, like, you're going to have to be there with them. And I think that, where's that at? I'm sitting here trying to think. Okay, so obviously 1 Corinthians 1:10 says, I appeal to you, brothers, by the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, that all of you agree, and that there be no divisions among you, but that you be united in the same mind and the same judgment. Okay. Obviously, this particular section of 1 Corinthians 1 is talking about divisions in the church. So, if we read 11 through, 17, it would go like this. For it has been reported to me by close people that there is quarreling among you, my brothers. What I mean is that each one of you says, I follow Paul, I follow Apollos, I follow Cephas, I follow Christ. Is Christ divided? Was Paul crucified for you, or were you baptized in the name of Paul? I thank God that I baptized none of you except Crispus and Gaius, so that none of you may say that you were baptized in my name. I did baptize also the household of Stephanus. Beyond that, I do not know whether I baptized anyone else. For Christ did not send me to baptize, but to preach the gospel, and not with words of eloquent wisdom, lest the cross of Christ be emptied of its power. I wouldn't ever want anybody to be like, I follow Justin. because we're supposed to follow Christ. Now, I hope I set a great example. Great might be too strong a word. I hope I set an example. But in retrospect, maybe I am trying to set a great example because I'm trying to be at that spot where I'm exemplifying Christ, and Christ is a great example. So if I'm exemplifying Christ, that is a great example, right? I don't know. Maybe I'm putting too much thought into it. But the point is, how can we... That takes it in a little bit of a different direction than the direction I'm going. Because then we're putting too much stock into men. And we shouldn't, obviously we shouldn't be doing that either. But if we're following one person, and that one person is setting a standard of I don't know what the word is that I'm looking for here. I guess I'll use standard of negativity. Is that going to be good for the church? Negativity, like obviously we have to have people that view both sides, being, more of a positive mindset, more of a negative mindset, because it does balance out. However, I think you could have, because it's something that I work with, and so I feel like it can be done, and maybe I'm not looking at it correctly in this part, I don't know, but I feel like we can have a negative mindset and still view a positive about somebody, view like, well, they're trying, they're doing their best. Where do I want to go next with this? Because I want to get back to a point here. I want to get back to like the main point. How are you looking at somebody? I just want us to love one another, and I want us to respect each other, and I want us to exemplify Christ. You saying things like, "Nah, don't go talk to him. That guy, or that girl, or whatever." I say guy because like my studies are aimed more towards guys. However, if you are a female here and you enjoy these studies, you're welcome to be here. You're definitely invited. But the whole idea behind this was originally blue collar guys or whatever. But I'm happy to have everybody. I'm sorry, tangenting there. But we can do so much better. I want to cover a couple more verses real quick. And then the day will be yours. Happy Thursday, by the way. I didn't say that at the beginning. Yes, here we go. I think this might have actually been the one that I was looking for, but I'm really glad I did 1 Corinthians. Okay. I want to start at 13. Peek behind the curtain here. I'm recording this on July 4th, so freedom, the whole freedom part here will play into a thing here in just a second. For you were called to freedom, brothers. Only do not use your freedom as an opportunity for the flesh, but through love serve one another. For the law is fulfilled in one word: you shall love your neighbor as yourself. But if you bite and devour one another, watch out that you are not consumed by one another. The church should not be cannibalistic. Plain and simple. Being being an American, I'm very proud to be an American. I love being here. I love the nationality. I love a lot about this place. However, this is actually a really cool tie-in. So, my nationality is heaven. You know, I long for a place I haven't been to. That is my homeland, so to speak. And during VBS this year, I got the opportunity to teach during that too, and it was on, like, how was it worded? Not rules of the road, but it was basically like road related. And so, being a rally car fan, okay, roads, perfect. I'll work in rally car stuff. So I used, I had this idea. I wanted it drawn, but my wife was like, let's just do an AI poster. And it actually turned out really cool. So we got like the back half of a car on the poster, and in the window where the names go for rally car drivers, I put my name and my co-teacher's name, and whenever they do that, they have the person's nationality, like their flag, next to their name. And so instead of an American flag next to my name and next to my co-teacher's name, I put crosses because our nationality is heaven. And I thought that that was really cool. And I really want to get to heaven. I really want everybody to get to heaven. And I don't want anybody to, I don't want this negative connotation amongst the brethren. And I see that I can do something different. I hope I haven't been too repetitive in this lesson up to this point. Beyond the point of like really driving home my point of we need to do better for everyone. And not everybody's going to be where I'm at with this. I get that. We're all at different levels. But that's the point. Okay? If I'm over here thinking negative, mean, horrible things, let's say, okay, so we have elders at the congregation I go to. What if they don't have the best interest. They're just running it like a business. They're just doing this and that and da 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 da. Okay. Well, they have to look at things through a certain light. But they're handling, we don't have to know everything that the elders are handling, because certain things are meant to be done in private. Are we giving them the grace that they're needing? Are we giving ourselves the grace that we are needing whenever we do that? Because we don't know what everybody's going through. That was the whole point of that point, or like that example. What about the dude who is struggling, let's say with smoking, because it's a very visible one, okay? So you see a dude struggling with smoking. You know he's a member of the church. You know he's trying to quit. We know how addictive nicotine is. Ozzy Osbourne even said that quitting smoking was the hardest thing to give up out of everything that he did. All the hard drugs, all the stuff. Smoking was the hardest. Okay? So we know how powerful that is. But we see him, say he leaves church on Sunday morning. We see the guy or girl get in their car, and we see them start lighting up a cigarette. Okay? We don't know their morning. We don't know if that's their first one of the day, their sixth one, whatever. But if we know that they are trying, and it is a struggle for them, because we all have a sin that we struggle with. We all have stuff that can and will potentially, not will, but potentially, because God has provided a way out for us, cause us to stumble. So if it will potentially cause us to stumble, and we are aware of our faults and we are trying to fix those faults, does that make us a bad person? Or does that just make us a person? Everybody has struggles. Everybody has something that bothers them. Something that I've noticed biblically, and at first it was like, oh, well, that's cool. Because I had noticed it before, but it was just more like passing, whatever. But another thing that I realized recently, the people who God selected to lead, they weren't people hungering for power. They weren't the people that were like, one of these days I'm gonna be this, I'm gonna be that. No. And actually, it made another correlation that was kind of cool. No, they're the people that are reluctant to lead, but still will and get the job done. I think to Moses, well, I'm shy. I can't do it. Okay, take Aaron with you. Who does most of the speaking anyways? I think about Joseph. Joseph was just doing tasks. Like, okay, here's this. Oh, you're really good at this. Let's put you in this position. Daniel was just a godly man. Started off presumably because of the way things were back then and everything. Beginning of the book of Daniel's a kid essentially. Okay, so he still wanted to serve God and everything like that, but he was just a kid trying to survive who was a follower of God. He practiced his religion, his lifestyle, however you want to put it. But because of how he did things, because of how he yearned for Christ, he was able to have the qualities that made him a good leader. To the point of being a leader. Obviously, he wasn't a king or anything like that, but he had king's ears, multiple kings. That doesn't really happen. Usually, people get cleaned out. However, he did not. So I think that is something worth looking at. I'm trying to think. I have another one that I always go to, and my brain is blanking. But the point is, David. He was a shepherd's boy. When he stepped up to Goliath, it wasn't, this is going to put me into power. It was, what did you just say about my God? It was, you want to run that by me again? It wasn't, this is how I'm going to get the throne. He had already been appointed, or not appointed, anointed. But when he was anointed, he was still just a shepherd's boy. He was still just doing his thing. And even when he had opportunities to kill Saul, he did not. He let the things come to him. He didn't go to them. He didn't, run his mouth about Saul to Jonathan. I think it went the way it had to go in that situation, particularly though, just because Saul being the way Saul was, essentially, but it didn't have to. But if it didn't go that way, if Saul would have been patient instead of impatient, David wouldn't have necessarily had to be king. And I think it's amazing that God picked David, whereas the people picked Saul. there's something in that to be said as well. But the whole point is, if we yearn for the power, that's a temptation. I think about, what if okay, so let me put it this way. Because I've taught about like the qualifications of being an elder and a deacon and everything to kids before, youth and middle school. And the way I taught it was, you don't necessarily have to, there's certain boxes you don't have to check. You may never be an elder, but there's certain, or a deacon, or a deacon's wife, or an elder's wife. You may never be married. You may never be able to have kids. Trying to think of another one. Let's focus on those couple, not to muddy the waters too much. Okay, so you may never get married. You may never have kids. Okay, so with that, you could still check all the other boxes. Being somebody of good, reputation amongst people. Not given to much wine. Slow to anger. I'm trying to think of all the different ones. I could pull it up, but I'm just going to try to rattle off a few. But you get the idea. With that, you could still try to meet as many of the qualifications as you can. Because maybe you're like Paul and you don't need to be married. Maybe for health reasons you can't have kids. Okay. But following all the other guidelines that are set for us for being an elder, for being a deacon, if you do that, is there any harm in it? No. It sets you up, because if you follow those things, you're going to get to heaven. Because if you're following those things and you're staying, like, you don't go erring, like, okay, let's put it that way. If you're following these things and you don't start erring, and you're doing what you're supposed to as a Christian, you're going to get to heaven. There is no negative connotations for following the guidelines for becoming an elder or a deacon, even if you never get those positions. Power is a temptation for some. And I think if those people get power, I don't think that they should have it if it is a temptation for them, because of what they'll do with it. Because there's a reason why they're wanting it. They're wanting the control. They're wanting whatever. So this episode wasn't supposed to be this long. But we have to start treating each other better. Plain and simple. Because I can't imagine, looking across heaven and being like, that guy made it? No, it's going to be, so glad you're here. Like, think about how awesome that feeling is going to be of, no way, I'm so happy for you. Congratulations, brother. You ran the race. And speaking of race, that brings me back to my other point that I wanted to put a pin in. And whenever it comes to racing, like talking about monster trucks or rallying or whatever, you run your own race. You focus on what's going on with you. You're not worried about what's going on with everybody else. Because the minute you do that, you trip up and you're going to mess yourself up. Because what's going on, like monster trucks, for example, okay, what's going on in this lane isn't necessarily what's going on in this lane. So say you come up over the cars and you're looking over, oh, that car kicked him that way. But you didn't pay attention to how the cars kicked you. So now you're going like off to this side and you're getting ready to roll, and he just get kicked up sideways, but he was able to manage and recover. But because you were so much, what's he doing over there? You messed yourself up. Christianity is the same way. Life is the same way. Sometimes not sometimes, all times we need to be focused on what we're doing. Not in a self-absorbed manner, but making sure we're doing things the right way. I hope this lesson is helpful. I hope that I made sense, which would make it helpful. But I hope that maybe you walk away from this lesson with a better perspective of people. Because God is good. God loves us. We're supposed to love one another as He loved us. And if we're having a view of somebody that's negative, I don't think we are. And can you imagine if everybody, I know I said this, but it drives the point home. That's why I'm repeating it. Can you imagine if everybody viewed you the way, like, that you view the person that you view in the most negative light? Be kind of rough, wouldn't it? I hope you have a happy Thursday. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. I'm not sure when we'll be back next. I'm hoping next week, but I can't make any guarantees. So, Lord willing, we will see you next week right here on the Calloused Podcast.